Pat Ryan didn't raise his voice. He didn't grandstand. He didn't deliver some rehearsed partisan speech. He looked the Secretary of Defense straight in the eye and said the one sentence no Pentagon official ever expects to hear in public. Your tenure has been shameful and weak, and you should resign. And the room froze, because everyone watching could tell this wasn't theater. This wasn't a headline stunt. This was a combat veteran sounding an alarm he believed the entire country needed to hear. And if the reports coming out of Fort Bragg are even half true, the warning is bigger than the confrontation itself. Something is happening inside the military, something that crosses a line this nation has spent 250 years trying to protect.
Sir, as you know, we're an apolitical military, so, no.
Thank you. At any time in your 30-plus years of incredibly distinguished service, did you have to make a pledge of partisan or political loyalty?
No, sir.
Thank you. Did you ever serve in any unit or command at any level where service members were required to make a pledge of political loyalty?
No, sir.
Thank you. And I want to commend you. You've been on the record on this, including in your confirmation hearings where you clarified, quote, "I've never worn any political merchandise or said anything to that effect." I appreciate that. That is the standard, and I commend you for saying so and continuing to model that. General Kane, one last question for you. Should soldiers have to pledge political loyalty to participate in an event with our Commander-in-Chief? Yes or no, please.
Sir, I'm not. First, no. I'm not aware of any time in history that soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines have been asked to do that. I think.
And I'm sorry, General. I do want to, just in the interest of time, I want to talk about what happened at Fort Bragg 2 days ago. There was guidance put out, and this has been verified by multiple independent news outlets, saying, quote, these are to the soldiers of the 18th Airborne Corps and the U.S. Army. If soldiers have political views that are in opposition to the current administration, then they need to speak with their leadership and get swapped out. This is swapped out of the event with the president. In addition, in an incredibly disturbing incident, there was a pop-up shop selling MAGA merchandise on post at Fort Bragg. And to summarize this, there was a commander from Bragg who said on the record, quote, "This has been a bad week for the Army, for anyone who cares about us being a neutral institution. This was shameful." If those are the facts, and I know the Army is investigating at least the MAGA pop-up shop, is that appropriate, General Kane?
Sir, I haven't seen any of these reports. I'm not familiar with them, but as I mentioned earlier and in my confirmation hearing, the nation demands a political, nonpartisan military.
I appreciate you saying that and happy to share those reports. Secretary Hegseth, are you familiar with DoD Directive 1344.10? Political activities of the members of the armed forces?
Well, first off, I don't buy into your
yes or no?
insinuation
Are you familiar
that pledges are being done under this administration. That's
I reclaim my
insinuation.
time. Are you familiar with this DoD directive?
There's never one time in my service or in this
Mr.
Defense
Secretary,
Department.
will you please answer
I'm answering your
these
question
questions?
where politics has been considered for service members.
Are you familiar with this directive? Yes or no?
Which directive?
DoD Directive 1344.10. I'm happy to provide you a copy. There's even a one-page red and green cheat sheet. Are you familiar with it? This is the same directive from when we were all in uniform.
I'm sure I am.
Has anything changed in that directive under your guidance, given what happened 2 days ago at Fort Bragg? Is there a new policy change that we're not aware of?
Again, I totally reject your insinuation.
Is there a policy change to DoD Directive 1344.10?
I know what you're attempting to insinuate, but there's
I'll
been
take
no
that as a
policy
no.
change and there is no policy.
Mr. Secretary, have you ever worn a MAGA hat in front of the troops?
I own plenty of MAGA hats, but I don't.
Have you ever worn one in front of the troops at an official event? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Do you think it's appropriate for the President of the United States to wear political merchandise, including a MAGA hat, at official events, including West Point commencement?
The Commander-in-Chief
Yes or no?
can wear whatever hat he wants, to include the phrase, "Make America Great Again," because I would like to make America great again as well.
So you think that's appropriate?
The Commander-in-Chief has the right, in front of his troops, to wear whatever he'd like.
Okay, I strongly disagree with you. And I urge you both, especially you, General Kane, as we see an increasingly political rhetoric, including from the Secretary, to please, for the good of our troops, this is an incredibly difficult moment, and we need leaders like you to continue to echo the apolitical nature. I have 12 seconds. Mr. Secretary, I don't say this lightly. I have to say this on the record. I think your tenure as Secretary of Defense has been shameful and weak, and you should resign. I yield back.
Gentlemen.
And what came out in that hearing suggests that line may not just be bending, it might already be cracking. But to understand why Ryan's words hit with the force of a grenade, you need to understand what pushed him to that breaking point. And that story starts long before he told a sitting secretary to step down. It begins with a series of questions so simple, so foundational, that the answers should have been effortless. But the fact that he had to even ask them tells you everything about how serious this moment really is. That he started with the basics. The kind of questions every soldier, every officer, every veteran should be able to answer without hesitation. Were you ever asked to pledge political loyalty? During your 30 years of service, did any commander ever require troops to align themselves with a politician? And General Kane, career soldier, respected leader, said no. Every time. No, no, no. Because that's the line the military never crosses. That's the oath. That's the foundation. You don't swear allegiance to a man. You swear allegiance to the Constitution. It is the single belief that separates the United States from nations where the military becomes an arm of political power instead of a guardian of the people. It's what stops the uniform from becoming a costume for whichever politician holds office at the moment. And that's why what happened 2 days earlier sent shockwaves through the veteran community and anyone who understands how fragile this balance is. According to multiple verified reports, soldiers at Fort Bragg were instructed to step aside from participating in a presidential event if their political views didn't align with the administration. Think about that. Not rank, not mission role, not availability. Political views, that isn't troop management. That isn't logistics, that's political vetting. And that has no place in a neutral military. When that message went out, a senior commander at the base reportedly called it a shameful week for the Army. Not because of optics, not because of controversy, but because everyone inside the institution knows exactly what that type of pressure leads to. A military that acts based on loyalty to leadership instead of loyalty to the Constitution is not a military. It's a political instrument. And once that transformation begins, it's almost impossible to undo. But the loyalty message wasn't the only red flag that week. That on top of the political screening directive, there was something else, something so strange that when it hit the news, most veterans said they'd never heard of anything like it in their careers. A pop-up shop selling political merchandise, hats, slogans, branding, set up on a federal military installation, not outside the gate, not off-base. On post, inside a facility where political neutrality is supposed to be absolute. That doesn't just appear out of thin air. That happens because someone allowed it, someone approved it, or someone in leadership decided not to stop it. And that's why when Ryan looked at the secretary and said, "Are you familiar with DoD Directive 1344.10? He wasn't asking for trivia. That directive is the rule that prevents the armed forces from becoming a political stage. It's the rule every enlisted and commissioned member understands. And instead of reinforcing that standard, instead of saying, "We will defend neutrality," the secretary deflected. He resisted. He dodged. He didn't say, "That was unacceptable." He didn't say, "We will correct this immediately." He didn't say, "The military must remain apolitical." He defended the optics, that he defended the behavior, that he defended the merchandise. And when Ryan pressed him with a simple yes or no question, "Have you ever worn political merchandise in front of troops?" the answer collapsed into something even more troubling. "I own plenty of those hats." Not an ethics stance, not a reassurance, not clarity, just a casual admission about political branding while leading an institution built on neutrality. Ryan didn't react as a politician, that he reacted as someone who has been in combat, someone who has commanded troops, someone who knows how dangerous it is when soldiers start believing that wearing the uniform requires loyalty to any administration. That is why he told the secretary to resign. Because once you normalize political influence inside the military, it spreads quietly. It spreads subtly. It spreads until one day you look around and realize the institution built to defend the Constitution is now defending something else entirely. And here's the part that should terrify people far more than a heated exchange in a hearing room. History has shown, in country after country, that the greatest threat to democracy doesn't come from extremists or fringe groups. It comes when the military, slowly, quietly, one compromise at a time, becomes politically aligned. It starts with small things. Screening who can stand behind a president at an event, allowing political merchandise on base, letting the chain of command tolerate actions that blur the line. Those little things become habits. Habits become norms, and norms become the new reality. That's how you lose institutional integrity, not with a dramatic takeover, but with a series of tiny permissions that seem insignificant until they all connect. Ryan made it clear, this isn't about which party someone supports. It's not about ideology. It's about preserving the last institution that cannot afford to lose neutrality. He said, flat out, that accountability is coming. Oversight is coming. Hearings are coming. That the officials who bent the rules, whether it's secretary leaders, senior commanders, or federal officials who looked the other way, will have to answer under oath. That message wasn't subtle. It was a shot across the bow. A reminder that even in a polarized country, there are still people willing to draw a line and say enough. What happened in that hearing was not a political argument. It was a warning signal from someone who understands that once the armed forces become a political weapon, there is no going back. That a nation can survive unpopular administrations. It can survive shifting ideologies. It can survive heated elections. But no nation survives the politicization of its military. And that is why this moment was more than a headline. It was a red flag waving over an institution that must stay neutral, or everything that stands on top of it begins to crumble. If you want more deep dive breakdowns that go beyond the surface clips and expose the real stakes behind these moments, make sure to hit subscribe, drop a like, and turn on notifications. There's a lot more happening behind the scenes, and you deserve to know exactly what's at risk.